Okay. Michael Maroon is a co-founder and a wealth advisor for SilverTree Wealth Partners, a wealth management firm that uses a concierge-style approach to help clients reach their financial goals. As a wealth advisor and former pastor, Michael has helped countless families who've lost loved ones and will offer some thoughtful advice from his unique perspective. Put your hands together for Michael Maroon.
Good morning. Good morning. And real quick, I'm sure we've been drinking coffee. I know Bo mentioned he may have to leave a little early to accommodate something. If you need to take a bathroom break or what have you, I know we keep going here, so it's not rude to step up, grab some food, get the bathroom. All right, Michael Maroon. I probably, anyone else here have a master's in divinity degree? All right, well, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the financial side too. I'm also willing to field questions on that side because usually that is a component of debt, is relating with your religious affiliation. They often do services. So I think I've presided over well over 100 funerals and memorial services. So feel free to pitch me a question there if you have any questions. I'm not going to get too much into the money. We'll cover a couple one-off topics, but I wanted to give you all some practical advice. And so in your folders, there are two handouts provided by Raymond James that are designed to really give you practical advice on ways to prepare for death and what to do when someone does die. And literally, step by step, here's what you ought to think about in the first month when someone passes, the next 6 months when someone passes. We don't deal with this stuff all too often. Our parents, perhaps. You want to make sure that your kids, whoever's going to be dealing with the aftermath, is prepared too. So I would suggest you take these documents, throw them in your safety deposit box, or throw them in your safe, or somewhere, some folder that you have that your kids are going to rummage through, because it may help them a lot if something were to happen to you. All right, a little bit about me. I've served as a wealth advisor since 2011, Fountain Hills since 2013. Also on the Fountain Hills Sanitary District with Bob Thompson, my colleague there, and married, got 3 kids, one of which kept me up 2 hours last night between 3 and 5. Why do they wake up at those hours? Anyways, some quick personal advice. When you think about your own death, I got to tell you, you probably want to be in control of what people are saying about you more so than your loved ones. You can write your own obituary. I would encourage you to write your own obituary. What do you want people to know about you when you pass? It's okay to do that. I would encourage you to do that. Again, stick it in the file where you have everything else. In terms of planning for your funeral, there's a lot of good resources out there that will help you think about, when I die, what should I be doing? Who do I want to have a charity that we donate to instead of having people bring a bunch of flowers? Do I want a specific scripture or what have you? So there's a lot of things that you don't think about, but we all see how those funerals go when we attend them. Those are usually the kids planning that. It's not the person that passed. And I got to tell you, it's a lot of work on the family members, and it's not going to be exactly the way you would have wanted it, unless you provided input into that ahead of time. There's a lot of great resources out there. I would consider looking into that, spending some time on it. What songs do you want, right? Who should people contact? Who are the individuals that you would want to make sure are there? Some family members, I don't want to do a big thing. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you want to make sure that those high school friends, in Podunk, Kansas, are aware of it as a Kansan. Who are those people that you want to make sure are reached out to let you know, or let them know that you passed? Documents, security codes, passwords. You all have probably Facebook accounts, maybe Instagram accounts, you have bank accounts, you have passwords that you know. Hopefully it is not just one password for everything. Are those written down? I would really encourage you to consider using a password manager. I use something called LastPass that's in my phone. When it pops up, when I open up the app, it scans my face, logs me in, and I have a catalog of all, whatever, 100 accounts that I have, all with different passwords. It set it up for me. But, you know, gosh, if my wife didn't know how to get into that and something happened to me, I mean, she is in for a world of hurt. Because I'm the one that pays all the bills, I'm the one that liaisons with all the utilities. So make sure you have a mechanism to make that easy on your spouse and your loved ones to wind that down. Do you really want someone hacking your Facebook account when you're dead? Do you really want someone duplicating your Facebook account when you're dead? And that brings up a tough memory for people when they get a message from their uncle that died 2 months ago because your Facebook stuff is still out there. People are always duplicating these accounts to try and fish for information and steal information. So, you know, you need to unwind all that stuff. There's practical lists on how to unwind and what you should unwind in the handouts.
Could I ask, is that an app?
LastPass is an app,
Okay,
yes.
but if it scans your face, how do you
And so I also, there's a password, a master password that's very complicated that I have written down in my safe.
And that's all you do?
That's how they would do it, yeah. It's just simple for me. It's like, I don't type any passwords anymore. LastPass automatically fills it in for me. And because each site has a different password, if one site happens to get hacked and my information is released, it's isolated. Now I don't have to worry about these hackers going to Google and trying that username and password there, and going to my bank account, trying that username and password there. This is what they do. So yeah, good question.
How does your wife get it? If it shows your face and God forbid something happened to you, then how does she need?
She'll scan me when I'm dead. If the face doesn't recognize it, then prompt you for a password there. That's a terrible joke. Okay. So if LastPass, LASTPASS is the one I use. Life insurance and long-term care policies while you're still in good health. If you have anything like that, if you participate in the Gold program or have a long-term care policy, you probably don't even remember how that works. And they are very complicated these days. They pay out at certain times. Sometimes they don't pay out immediately. You have to wait 90 days in the nursing home before they start to kick in. Understand how those work beforehand. Sit with your financial professional to understand the ins and outs of that. That should be part of your annual review process. Okay? Okay, a couple things on money matters. I would strongly consider consolidating your accounts. If you have accounts spread out all over the place, when you die, you are leaving your loved ones with a world of hurt. These accounts will lock up. Upon your death, and there's public databases on this, when you're dead, somehow your financial institutions knows about that pretty quickly. And the accounts are locked until they get a death certificate. All right, unless your name is on it as a spouse, if it's your parents' account, your dad, your mom, that account will not be accessible until you can provide a death certificate and allow that institution to process it. Usually it takes 2 weeks.
What if you have a bank account with a PDA and somebody
TOD paid on death or transfer on death TOD, it is locked until that death certificate can process that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Even if you were best friends with the president of the bank and they saw the person die, they cannot unlock that account without processing it with a death certificate.
Gotcha.
Period.
If you have a kid,
If they're on the account as well, they can have access to it, so that's a workaround that we often encourage. But I've got a couple thousand again in my safe, so that if something happens, you know, there's emergency cash available for my loved ones to do this or that. But yes, the other thing is if you have a child that you trust, to put in a separate, smaller account that can have maybe 10,000 or so to cover some funeral expenses or what have you. That's another workaround to that. Okay.
What about major accounts?
Yeah, I would not put even if you trust them, don't put them on major accounts. Again, even if they don't need to, what if they get hacked? Okay, so a small account, 10,000. Updating your beneficiaries, again, should be part of your annual review process. Not just your beneficiary on your bank account. On your IRAs, 401ks often get neglected. If you have things titled in a trust, all you need to do is update the trust. And all your beneficiaries on everything that's titled in that trust updates right then and there, okay? But if you don't have a trust, and someone has hacked you off, you want to reduce their percentage of what they get, and you're going to have to do that on every single account. Again, consolidate. It'll make your life easier and their life easier.
Thank you.
Okay, what happens when someone passes? How am I on time?
You're good. You have 6 minutes.
Okay, we're going to cruise through this because I have this information in your handouts. But this is some very practical advice on what to do step by step. You have it in your handouts, so I'm going to just cruise through all of that. All right. I will say a couple things we've run into. I have a client who named titled a very nice ring to a granddaughter. Well, mom of that granddaughter didn't want her to have that ring, even though grandma wanted her to have that ring. Granddaughter does not have that ring. Mom has that ring, even though grandma died and her wishes were well known. That's how it goes. You'll get it when I die is what the mom says. You'll get it when I die. Even though the grandma wanted her granddaughter to have it, you'll get it when I die. Okay. If there's stuff that you want to make sure goes to kids and doesn't follow the trajectory, just because it's written on paper, that's not always how it goes. I would have a deliberate conversation, okay? Grandma had a conversation with her daughter, mom, right? About wanting that ring to go to the granddaughter, it probably would have happened, right? I do not like it when this stuff is a surprise. Put your big girl or big boy pants on and have a conversation with your kids about what you intend to do. If they can pout about it, I don't care. My money, my choice, my stuff. But have the conversation beforehand. Don't let it be a surprise. Again, practical advice in the handouts, but thinking about all your expenses, that should be cataloged as well. Financial professionals like myself, we do sit down with our clients and help them get their stuff together. All right, let's make sure that your utilities are still getting paid, all that. But if you set that up on auto drive beforehand, it just makes things a lot more simple. What if it's coming out of that Hawk account? Okay, so be mindful of this stuff. A couple quick things, a couple quick tidbits on preparing for death with your money, right? Most people have 401ks and traditional IRAs. When you die, that money will be passed to most likely your children, wherever you name it. It is based off of income tax on how much money goes to Uncle Sam. So usually, when a parent dies, the kid is at their prime earning potential. Okay? I think about maybe when some of your parents passed. If you were still working, you were at your peak income tax bracket. If I'm a retiree, I have lower income now. Maybe I'm in the 12% bracket, 22% bracket. I've got all this money in my IRA. When I die, my kids inherit that, and they're in the 36% tax bracket. Now they're going to pay a ton of money in taxes on pulling that IRA money out. I liked what Mark said. Think about converting that. You can utilize life insurance in some capacities for that. You can also convert IRA money to Roth while you're still alive. All right? There's smart ways to do it. I always have a conversation with the CPAs to make sure we do this in a way that that doesn't put you into a higher tax bracket. You got to be smart about it. Do it in consultation with your CPA, your financial advisor. All right? We should all be talking. Your estate planning attorney. I work closely with Bob and with Kim. We have clients in common. Anytime something has an impact with taxes, estate planning, your advisor should be having conversations. Period. Okay, but you should be making, if you have too much money, you're not going to spend it all, you should be thinking about how can I make this tax efficient for my next of kin when I pass. And you should be having those conversations with your advisor. Yes?
Are they required to withdraw that money from the
Yes,
IRA?
now in 10 years. So spouses will inherit the IRA as if it's theirs.
Okay.
Okay? But as of 2018, now when kids or anyone else inherits an IRA, it is required to be pulled out of the traditional IRA or 401k within 10 years now.
So they can take a little bit out of it each year?
That's right, that's right. Now, Roth IRAs, for the inheritors, so it's for the kids that inherited a Roth, they still are required to pull that out over 10 years, but at least they're pulling it out fully tax-free. Okay, and all that growth is tax-free. So they would save the difference between whatever your tax bracket was and their tax bracket, right? If you were in a 12 and they're in a 36, they get to save that difference. Okay. What else do I run into quite a bit? Well, I'll say this. I am a fiduciary. You should be working with someone that can be objective in looking at the different solutions that might exist in retirement. At the end of the day, all these products, they're all tools. All right, and when you're building a house, you're going to need a lot of tools. When you're building a wealth house, you're going to need a lot of tools. Some tools are better than others in different situations. Everything has a give and take. So make sure you're working with fiduciary to get some of that objective advice on how to optimize your portfolio, optimize your wealth, not only for while you're living, for tax efficient, tax-free income, etc., but also for your kids when you die. You can make that efficient as well. So, if I have time for a question or two?
You do.
All right. Anything else you want to throw at me?
You need to eat chocolate on the table.
Okay.
So when you talk about the bank accounts, for example, if you have your son on your, it's a signature on your son, and now you died, do they still continue to have access to your online banking account if your password is provided?
When there's an account lock, so when someone's passed, if they have just online access, so if they're accessing it as a third party and they're not really named on the account, no, that account will shut down and the online access will lock.
But if he's a signature on the account and
But if
he
he's
has the
named on
password,
the
then he
account.
has access.
Yes, the account, it's just like a joint account on a husband or wife.
Got it.
So when you have a son or something, it's still a joint account.
Okay.
All right, it's just not with your spouse, but it is still a joint account, and they will still have access to it. But you know, your estate attorney, you want to have some conversations with that on how that intersects, especially on investment accounts.
What about a business
They might
account?
just be on the signers.
Yeah, if they're one of the signers and they're not registered, it could be a different story, and that's going to be a case-by-case basis.
And
But
what
if
about a
they're
business account?
business accounts? That's a whole new can of worms. So when someone passes on a business account, it will get locked as well unless there are other officers on that account listed.
So they have to be an officer?
They have to be registered on the account.
But
So
as a-
registry.
But they have to be, do they have to be an officer of the business to be?
On a situation like that, I would say it's complicated. In our situation, if the owner of the account, a business account died, and there was a treasurer that was also registered on that, we would probably lock the account still until it was sorted out. It depends though if this is a C Corp, S Corp, you know, or a sole proprietorship would weigh into that as
So do you
well.
deal with your CPA on that as far as getting that, you know, how to get that done? Or do you go to the bank and have it?
You'd have to discuss it with the bank, but most likely they're going to require a death certificate to get things going again. So you would want to make sure that you have a business continuity plan in the event that something happens to the owner, and that should be done anyways. There should always be a business continuity plan for if an officer or an owner dies, what's going to happen.
So, but if you're the only person in the business, it's business continuity plan, who does that?
So a lot of people utilize life insurance. You might have a conversation with the business broker, but ultimately your CPA is probably the best person. Go for it.
On your death certificates, they all have to be original.
Generally speaking, they all have to be original. There are some institutions where they may see the original and can make a copy of the original and let you walk out still with the original, but they still have to see the original. And so what we recommend is that when you are asking for copies of death certificates, you get at least 20. Now, some places will say 5 or 10, but you will be surprised 2 years from that, 2 years later, when you're moving accounts from one institution to another, it's an inherited IRA, they will need to see a death certificate in many circumstances. So,
Especially VA.
yeah, that's right. That's right. The VA is notorious for wanting to make, there's a lot of fraud that goes on with death.
Yes.
So, okay, great question and good point. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.